In 1985, a 175-pound black bear was found dead in northern Georgia after overdosing on 35 kilos, or 75 pounds, of cocaine. That is a true story. Drug smugglers were trafficking cocaine from Colombia into the United States and had to dump their cargo from the weight being too heavy mid-flight. In 2023, a movie was released reimagining that story. That movie is Cocaine Bear. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear, directed by Elizabeth Banks, written by Jimmy Warden, starring Keri Russell, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Alden Ehrenreich, Christian Convery, Brooklynn Prince, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., and Ray Liotta. For a complete cast listing, check out the link in our show notes. All right, so here is a movie whose premise is on the nose. It is pretty straightforward. There is a bear in the woods that comes across a bunch of cocaine. It does the cocaine, and the movie ensues. There is not much more plot than that, folks. I could basically end the review right there. If you've seen the preview, you see that the bear gets up to it. And if most of you that's seen the trailer have probably been excited to watch this movie in some capacity. And I think that if you are hanging out with friends, if y'all want to have a good time, if y'all want to go watch something, just kind of like be on the screen in front of you, but not have much more depth than that, then this is the movie for you. I saw this in a press screening with a lot of, very enthusiastic people seeing it. So there was those of us members of the press, as well as, a bunch of people that just kind of got like free tickets from a radio station or signed up and got tickets, something like that. And a lot of them were very excited to see this movie, which meant that my experience was a little bit different because it seemed like people came almost like the way you go to a comedy show, just ready to laugh, which is a good crowd to be in a movie like this because they're going to be generous with their laughs. Sitting there, I found myself wondering if the movie was actually funny. Some parts I laughed, or if it was that people were laughing around me, which is what was making me laugh. Because there were some parts of this movie that it's obviously a bear attacking a bunch of people, and the movie is rated R. And there were more parts of the movie that felt like that were probably rated PG than were actually rated R. It's a CGI bear, but at times the bear is attacking people and killing people, and the violence is extremely gory. Not even the goriest I've seen, but pretty gory for a movie in which we're watching a CGI bear do cocaine. I think if you're going to do a movie like this, I think for me, it would have been better if it had been funnier, and I'm just uncertain if this really hit the mark in terms of funny. I remember sitting there thinking if this movie had been made in the 2000s or the late 90s by like the Farrelly brothers or by Adam McKay or any of those guys, I think that this probably would have been probably a funnier movie in a lot of ways, because I think the types of jokes they would have put in there would have been different from the ones that we're seeing. There was a lot of dialogue-based humor in which people were kind of going back and forth over the fact that the bear did cocaine, and it felt like they weren't fully committed to that, because at some point this kind of turns into a family adventure movie where they're trying to escape from this predator, as opposed to just like lean into the fact that this is just an absurd situation. I don't feel like they fully leaned all the way in, and I'm wondering if that's and it's funny because the producers are the same guys that did the Lego movies. I want to say Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. It just didn't feel as like, when I sat down to watch the Lego movie, I laughed a lot. There was this joke. And this one, it just felt like there were enough jokes for it to be a comedy, but not enough jokes that I could just like lean into the absurdity of the movie. And when I say that, I mean like there's one thing for it to be absurd that a bear is doing cocaine. It's another thing to see like a man get shot in the head, a dude get his like arm ripped off, a person get their face ripped off. It just felt like those two things together were difficult for me to kind of like lean into, because at some point I'd be like, these people are in real danger. This doesn't feel fun. And when I say that, I mean like if you think about something like, I remember while I was watching this, I kept thinking Final Destination, which like the absurdity of Final Destination kind of works for me because they're taking themselves so seriously, and it's like at some point the zaniness of the fact that death is stalking these people is, I feel like it's an absurd enough premise, but because they withdraw themselves, they like put themselves in the category of thriller or horror, it feels like I don't have to worry about like it necessarily trying to be funny. So when I see a death in this movie, I take it seriously. When I see it in Final Destination, oh man, that person's dead. That was really gory. As opposed to we're kind of watching these people and there's jokes and then someone's head gets ripped off. And I'm like, is this funny? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting like, like there's a factor that comes with watching these in Final Destination. And I don't know if I'm articulating it right, but there's a factor that comes with these Final Destination movies that's different from what I just watched in Cocaine Bear. Snakes on a Plane, you know what I mean? And it seems like even with Snakes on a Plane, there was a better job of jokes. Like Sharknado, there's a better job of jokes. You know what I mean? Like I think all these movies can be categorized in the same place where they just lean so far into the absurdity that you're like, this is barely even a movie anymore. Even stuff like a Fast and the Furious, like they just lean into who they are, and that kind of lends itself to being something that I feel like I could enjoy more. Whereas with this one, felt like they were leaving it serious enough that I couldn't lose myself and really enjoy it the way I think I probably could have. I don't think it really displays Elizabeth Banks' skill set as a director. I don't know what of this movie was really her, but I don't know. It didn't really do much for me in any of those regards. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think this is a 2 of 5 stars, like if you are hanging out with friends and you're going out, whatever, you're going to go watch this movie. You will enjoy it. And when I say enjoy it, you'll enjoy the experience that you have with your friends. You will forget this movie existed. I've already forgotten the acting in the movie. Keri Russell was basically negligible in this movie. It's like she didn't even exist. And I don't know. It just seemed like there was a lot of people that showed up in this movie to have a good time. And I felt like there was a few scenes in there in which I'm like, okay, this is fun. We're having a good time. But it seemed to switch over so fast to like kind of really grisly scenes of death that I just felt like, this is kind of like jarring that it goes back and forth like this. So I don't know, if you're a big fan of super gory horror films, then this might be for you. Wasn't for me. I give it 2 of 5 stars. And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Round Studios. Thomas Tyra of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Tom. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Cocaine Bear, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at OHitsBigRon. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Ron Stu. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.